what is it about books like Twilight that just keeps us coming back to them? I honestly don't have an answer to that question, but if that is what you're looking for, you have come to the right place because I have so many book recommendations for you. Hey cutie, it's Cunning Little Cutie, and today I'm going to be giving you a ton of paranormal romance book recommendations for you to read this fall. And if you are someone who thinks that the paranormal romance like Twilight era has come and gone, you would be incorrect, because actually a lot of these books are brand new releases. So let's go. So the first book on this list is called The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy by Megan Bannon. This book is described as You've Got Mail meets Howl's Moving Castle, and honestly, like, that is better than any description I could ever give you, but I'm gonna try my best. So the supernatural creature of choice for this book is zombies. Now, I don't know if this is gonna sound weird, but I personally think that, like, if any paranormal creature was going to be real, it would be zombies. I'm not saying I believe in zombies, because I don't, but it just, like, seems to me like it would be the most plausible. Like, maybe there could be a medical explanation to, like, the possibility for zombies. I mean, like, more so than a man who turns into a wolf because of the full moon. Like, that's just not realistic. But I digress. So The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy is set in this fictional town where basically when people die, their souls like have to go through this process of getting to the afterlife, and if they don't go through that process correctly, then they can turn into zombies. So our main guy is called a marshal, and his job is to protect the town from zombies. Then our main girl basically owns this like magical funeral parlor where she embalms the bodies and like tries to help them pass on to the afterlife like properly so that they don't become zombies. And so these two characters hate each other in real life, and this is where the You've Got Mail part comes in. So basically they become secret pen pals and they write each other like super swoony love letters, and they eventually, you know, have to fall in love in real life, obviously. Next up, we actually have the book that I am reading right now, and that is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. So many people have been talking about this book on Book Talk and Bookstagram, and for good reason. This is quite possibly the coziest book I have ever read in my life. It is about this young woman, like kind of maybe late 20s, early 30s, and she is a witch. And she's not supposed to let people know that she's a witch, like that's supposed to be a secret. But rather than just, you know, keep it to herself, she actually has a YouTube channel where she posts content as a witch, thinking that nobody would ever actually believe that she's a witch. So it's kind of ironic. Only one day she is contacted by somebody who actually does believe that she is a witch, and he needs her help because he has got 3 young witches who do not know how to control their magic, and he needs her to come and basically tutor them in magic. So it's basically like the homeschool version of Hogwarts, and like I just love that idea so much. So she ends up at this like British seaside cottage estate sort of place where she's helping raise these 3 young girls, and we have a grumpy sunshine romance because the estate that she's on also has like a built-in library, which, first of all, dream come true. And so the librarian on the estate has kind of been like helping raise these girls. He's not magical or anything, but he's just been taking care of them. And so he is very skeptical of bringing another person into the situation. He's very protective of these young girls, but obviously she is just an adorable ray of magical sunshine, and we know that she is going to warm up his heart and win him over, and I just cannot wait to see what happens next. The next book on our list is actually one that I have talked about before. It is one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and that is Wild as the Witch by Rachel Griffin. This is the same author that wrote The Nature of Witches last year, and I have not read either of them yet, but I really want to. Like, they're on the TBR, I swear. But I wanted to recommend this one because personally, the Pacific Northwest vibes immediately make this one the most anticipated to read. Not to mention, I think the romance is going to play a bit more of a prominent role in this one versus The Nature of Witches. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding. So this is basically a story about a witch living in the Pacific Northwest, and she kind of like has a problem with keeping her magic under wraps, and so she's gotten in trouble in the past with like accidentally revealing herself to like people. And so to try, I guess maybe she has anger issues, so her method of like venting is basically like writing down these curses about people that she's not actually going to like send out into the world, but she just like writes them down. Just, it's kind of like cathartic for her. Except for one day, this guy that she finds very irritating, you know, irritates her, she writes a curse about him, and then this bird snatches it up before she can destroy it and flies away with it. So the two of them basically have to team up and go on a hike across the forests of the Pacific Northwest in order to track down this bird and get this curse before it is like unleashed on their whole town. Okay, so the next book on this list is really exciting because it is not just a book, it is actually an entire anthology of just paranormal romances, and that is Eternally Yours. So this book has a bunch of really big, really popular authors right now. I'm talking like Kat Cho and Chloe Gong, and the one that I personally am the most excited for, and that is Kendara Blake. And if you're not familiar with her, she is the author of the Three Dark Crowns series, which is like my favorite fantasy series ever. So I cannot wait to see what she has come up with. But honestly, I'm really excited to see what all of the authors have come up with. So like I said, this book is entirely just paranormal romance short stories, and there's supposed to be like all sorts of different magical creatures in it, like mermaids and vampires and like all sorts of different things. Like each story will feature a different type of paranormal creature as well as like a different couple. So I'm just really excited to read all of the different stories in this book. Next up, we have a book that I've been saying I'm going to read for the longest time. I feel like a lot of people in the book community have those books that like have just been sitting on their TBR for a really long time, and you don't know why, because like you really think you're gonna like it and you really want to read it, but then you just never get around to it. This is one of those books for me, and that is Vampires, Hearts, and Other Dead Things. And I am like committing to myself that I'm going to read this book by the end of the year. Because it sounds like one I would genuinely love, and somehow I just like keep forgetting about it. But it is basically a story about this girl who, like, her and her father are not vampire hunters, but kind of like vampire enthusiasts. So this is set in a world where the presence of vampires has just recently become public knowledge, like within the last few years of when this story takes place. And so this girl and her father are like really into all things related to vampires, but they've kind of gone into hiding ever since they, you know, have become public knowledge. Because I guess people are like bugging the crap out of them or something. So they're really hard to find. But when this girl's dad gets sick, she realizes that vampires are like the only way that he can recover and get better. So she sets out on a mission by herself to go and find a vampire, and it actually takes place in New Orleans, which sounds super cool. So like the vibes, the aesthetic, like everything is gonna be there, and there's obviously paranormal romance with the vampire, because like what else would it be? The next book I actually found on TikTok because the author was like promoting it on their account, and this was like several months ago. This was kind of back before I had ever seen anything like that. Like I didn't really know it was common for authors to promote their own books on TikTok. So when I first saw it, I was like, I couldn't really tell if it was like a real book that was coming out or if it was just kind of like somebody making a cool TikTok or like what the deal was. But I have patiently been waiting several months, and it is finally out. Like it just recently came out, and it is called This Blood That Binds Us by S.L. Coakley. So basically this book is like Twilight, but if it was set in college and made for more of like a Gen Z audience. It is about this whole family of vampires, and it's like 4 brothers. So if you're into like the Hawthorne legacy and stuff like that, like I think this would be good for you. And they are all vampires, and one of them accidentally like bites a human girl and later finds out that she actually goes to his university. So she doesn't like turn into a vampire, but she does discover obviously that like vampires exist, and so he's like explaining everything to her, and she like meets his family. But the cool thing with this book is that the vampires are all like true to their age, so it's not one of those situations where like the love interest is like hundreds of years old and then the human is like 17. Like, I know a lot of people find that kind of weird, and I guess when you sit down and think about it, like it is weird. It's not like something that keeps me from reading books, but I think it will be really interesting to see how that plays out. And the part that I am most excited for is that our main character, like the vampire, the love interest, is not a like dark, brooding, mysterious, like emo Edward Cullen type. He is being marketed as like a cinnamon roll sunshine boy, like very happy. So I have been just really excited to get my hands on this book, and I will finally get to read it very soon. Okay, I wanted to wrap up our list with a graphic novel. Actually, it is my favorite graphic novel of all time, and that is Fake Blood by Whitney Gardner. So this is a middle school romance about this little kid who pretends to be a vampire in order to impress his crush at school, and it is the most wholesome, adorable story you will ever hear in your life. Like, it is definitely one of my biggest comfort books. Like, it is the perfect book to read when you're feeling sad or you feel like you need like a literary hug, like that kind of thing. It is just so good. Also, it is really, really funny to read if you are like a true Twihard, because it's kind of like a spoof of Twilight. So there are a lot of little details thrown in there that are sort of like jokes about Twilight. So like, for example, the town that it's set in is called Spoons instead of Forks, like stuff like that. That's just like really cute and funny. So I would highly recommend this if you have not read it. Like, look at him, he's so cute. He's like got his sunglasses on and tousled up his hair to pretend to be a vampire. He's so cute. Okay, that is all of my paranormal romance book recommendations. I hope that you will enjoy a few of these and check them out. Please let me know down in the comments if you have any other ideas for paranormal romance books, because obviously I'm really into that right now and I would love to check out your recommendations. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if there's any way I can be encouraging you or praying for you this week. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye!